Did we do enough reading between the lines on Brad Holmes?
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, here we go, everybody. It's a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today is Wednesday, April 30th. Into Thursday, May the 1st. Yes, we are into May. Tomorrow is, yes, it's going to be May. You're going to see every Justin Timberlake gif known to mankind tomorrow. But thanks for making us your first listen. Checking us out wherever you get your podcast. Please, if you have not, watch us on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel and also subscribe. Shout out to our everydayers that are out there that watch and listen to the podcast daily. That includes our good buddy, Sarah Frazier. It is her birthday today, so happy birthday to Sarah. Locked On Lions today, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. A lot to get into today. Tomorrow, Colton Pouncey, Lions beat writer for The Athletic, is going to join us. The other half of the Welcome to Detroit podcast, Colton Pouncey and Nick Baumgartner. We had Nick on yesterday. His thing is the draft. Now let's get Colton on and kind of do a state of the Lions situation now following the draft, which of course took place over the weekend. And we're chasing down Trevor Sikkema from PFF. They're awesome draft analyst, and we're likely going to have him on next week and get his thoughts on what the Lions did in the draft. A lot to get into. We got a call of the day today. If you want to be our call of the day, it is simple. Leave a voicemail at speakpipe.com/Derry, D-E-R-Y podcast page. I'm going to put a challenge out there. We've had some really good calls of the day. I appreciate all the everydayers that listen and chime in. Give me something great. I want like a call of the day that makes me laugh or smile or gets me mad. Nothing personal. Just, you know what I mean? Like, let's ramp this up a little bit. I want to have a really good one on Friday to play for you. So please hit us up at speakpipe.com/Derry, my last name, D-E-R-Y, podcast page. All right, a lot to get into today. I want to talk about a couple of veterans that are now on the hot seat following the draft in terms of their roster spot. Matt LaFleur versus Ben Johnson is starting to get spicy, and I think that's going to help the Lions. I'll explain that. But I want to start with this, and then I'm done talking about Brad Holmes and the media. All right, but the Lions general manager, as you heard on yesterday's show, kind of got snippy on the morning show on 97 on the Ticket when they were asking him about, well, you understand why we ask you about edge rusher. And he kept saying, no, I don't understand. And he talked about how Lions fans are mad that they have Aiden Hutchinson, and that Lions fans in certain media think the Lions should have 2 elite pass rushers when there's only 5 or 6 elite ones in the entire game of football. Brad Holmes is right about some things. He's not right about this. Lions fans are not mad that Aiden Hutchinson's on the team. And no fans and no hosts, including me, are sitting here saying the Lions must have elite pass rushers on both sides. I just want to have somebody good on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. You know, when Zadarius Smith, I'll just use him as an example, was in Cleveland, he played opposite of Myles Garrett, and the two of them were very, very good together. I'm not saying that the Lions need to have the New York sack exchange with Gastineau and Salam and Klecko, and I'm not going there. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it has to be the 85 Bears out there with Richard Dent and the Fridge and Wilson and all those guys. I'm not saying that. What we're trying to say is we want the Lions to, we were hoping they would fill a need earlier and get an edge rusher either in free agency or in the draft that you know is going to be a solid starter and is likely going to be the guy opposite of Aiden when Hutchinson is healthy. That's because the guy opposite of him right now on the depth chart is Marcus Davenport, and he's never healthy. And Al-Qadim Muhammad is like next up on the depth chart pretty much, and he's somebody that nobody wanted in free agency, and the Lions brought back on a 1-year deal. Yes, you can swing Levi Onwuzurike to the edge and outside. Pascal has played some outside as well. But that's all we're saying. But Mike Payton from A to Z Sports, and this is like the second time I've glossed and given some shine to Mr. Payton at A to Z Sports. Formerly, Mike was at Pride of Detroit. Mike wrote a piece that I checked out today about what Brad Holmes had to say, and Yahoo picked up this as well. Brad Holmes on Friday was asked about the edge rusher thing. He was also asked about it on Saturday too. But he said, quote, I don't need to get into specifics, but there were times we made attempts to get an edge rusher and they got picked before you couldn't get up. It takes two to trade, end quote. There were other reports out there that Brad Holmes was on the phones, desperate in the first round to try to move up, and was calling everybody to try to get an edge rusher earlier in the first round. Of course, the Lions ended up settling for Tyleik Williams at number 28, and I don't think they think they're settling at all. I think they think they got a very good player in Williams that's going to contribute right away, especially with the injury to Aleem McNeil. With that being said, Payton points out in his piece at A to Z Sports, he thinks the Lions were trying to trade up and were trying to get in front of Cincinnati at number 17 because the Bengals ended up drafting Shemar Stewart, the very chiseled, the very raw edge rusher out of Texas A&M. The only edge rushers that that were taken within the range that the Lions were looking to trade up were Shemar Stewart, who, like I said, went to the Bengals at 17, and then James Pierce Jr., who went to the Falcons, I believe, 21-ish or whatever. And as Payton pointed out in his column, Shemar Stewart was the only first-round edge rusher that the Lions brought in for a top 30 visit. Now, we don't have all of the 30 names. Those were reports. There were other things trickling in. But again, the Lions were, I agree with Mike. I do think that Brad Holmes was trying to get Shemar Stewart and attempted it. And I also think that some of Brad's frustration, whether it was with the media on Saturday saying you guys have been on my ass, or it was yesterday when he was on the 97.1 The Cricket morning show with Costa and Jansen, I think some of that frustration is based off of not getting accomplished what he was trying to do at first, which was probably moving up to get Stewart. Shemar Stewart has the opportunity to be a really special talent in the NFL. And the body type and the fact that he's so big, he's not like Mike Green, all right, the guy that went to the Ravens. He's not like Jalen Walker. He's not like Donovan Ezeraku, all right? These are guys that are more outside linebackery and have a lot of speed. Stewart is just a monster of a specimen. That's an edge rusher that could probably kick and play inside as well, which, as we know, the Lions love to do. They've had John Kaminsky over the years, edge, interior. Pascal, edge, interior. Onwuzurike, interior and edge. They've moved guys in and out. Heck, when Aiden Hutchinson was healthy last year, there were some times he was lined up between the guard and the center, or the guard and the tackle, and not necessarily out on the outside. That's how the Lions have been playing for years. The defense has gotten better. But as we talked about, they're a bottom 10 team in sacks. And I know sacks isn't everything. You got to have pressures. You got to have hurries. Week 18 against the Vikings. Boy, they rattled Sam Darnold. The Lions looked like a ferocious team in week 18 last year in clinching the NFC North for the second straight year because they came after Sam Darnold. Now, again, a lot of that was blitzing. You had Melifanu, I think, got a sack in that game coming from safety. Anzalone coming from the linebacker spot. The Lions were all over it, but they sent the house and really rattled Darnold and didn't just rush 4. And this is another reason why I think the Lions are eventually going to bring Zadarius Smith back if he'll come back for less money. I definitely could see that being a possibility. But Brad getting a little frustrated might be kind of what Mike is talking about in his story, and I don't disagree with it, that he was making an effort to get up there. And again, it takes 2 to tango. Maybe the Bengals said, we want a first-round pick next year, and Brad's went, no, we're not doing that. We're not going from 28 to 17 and giving you a number 1 next year. Maybe their asking price was too steep. Maybe the Bengals love the player and didn't want to give away the pick. We know the Bengals are cheap. That we know. So they're going to value a draft pick and something that they control for the next 4 to 5 years. So Holmes admitting we tried to move up. Even saying he tried to get an edge. You know, that's the great thing I like. One thing I love about Brad and I love about Dan Campbell. These guys are transparent. They're not going to not answer questions. They are going to be pretty clear on expectations and what they're doing, which I think is great. Fans would want to know and need to know. I mean, my favorite baseball team, the Cleveland Guardians, they're like silent about injuries. They like refuse to ever acknowledge somebody's hurt. Drives me crazy. What Russian secrets are you holding here? All right, coming up next, couple of veteran players that because of this draft could be in some trouble. I will tell you about that coming up next, right here on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions. And the NBA playoffs are here. FanDuel has given new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Tonight, Ant Edwards and the T-Wolves trying to close out the Lakers. You get other games going on you want to get into and watch. Nothing better than following the NBA playoffs by being on FanDuel. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. All right? Three-pointers, steals, assists, player props, out the you-know-what. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. If you had over 15 points last night on Asar Thompson, you won. Kid had 22 for your Pistons. Detroit basketball is still alive. Game 6 tomorrow night down at Goris Arena. Should be a blast. Don't miss out on any of this action. Head to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets. Do it today. What's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you. It is a Wednesday edition of the Locked On Lions podcast. Again, thanks for checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, Colton Pouncey is going to join us tomorrow from The Athletic, so you're not going to want to miss that. Appreciate all of you that are with us every day, as we like to call them, our everydayers. Very, very appreciative of that. That is for sure. All right, so you saw the drafting of not one, but two guards by the Lions over the weekend. Number one, of course, was Tate Ratledge on Friday in the second round, and Miles Frazier in the fifth round, the guard from LSU. Lions are bulking up on the interior of the offensive line. We know that Graham Glasgow struggled last year. I don't think he's in trouble in terms of his roster spot. I wouldn't think so. And again, Christian Mahogany's still unproven despite a couple of starts where he played well last year as a sixth round pick. But seeing that the Lions drafted a couple of offensive linemen this year makes me think the 2023 fifth round pick, Colby Sorsdal, is in some trouble as far as roster spot goes. You know they're going to keep Dan Skipper around as a backup. You know that Coyote Awashika is going to be on the roster. Does Michael Neese make the team, or is Glasgow the backup center? You can only carry so many offensive linemen and so many veterans and everything else. And then you got Ratledge, Glasgow, Mahogany fighting for two guard spots. Whoever doesn't make it will be a backup. Leaving Sorsdal is somebody that I think could be in some trouble. Now, if you recall a couple of years ago, Sorsdal, I believe, was drafted as a tackle, played some guard. He's played a little bit. Last year, he was inactive for most of the year and did not make much of an impact at all and really wasn't utilized when the Lions had some issues with injuries and everything else. I think his roster spot is in big trouble. And again, the beauty of the Brad Holmes drafting is most of the guys he's taken and drafted have made the roster, been on the roster. Rarely have you seen a Brad Holmes draft pick get let go. Not that many, for sure. The Lucas kid, the cornerback, the seventh rounder a couple of years ago, Jamar Jefferson was let go, then brought back. But for the most part, guys that are drafted by Brad make it. It's a testament to him. The other player that I think is in some trouble from a roster spot perspective is Broderick Martin. This one's a little bit more tricky. He has not been able to stay healthy. He was a third round pick just 2 years ago in 2023. But you see with the drafting of Tyleik Williams, the additions of DJ Reader last year, Aleem McNeil gets extended, Onwuzurike stays, Roy Lopez is on the roster, Pascal can play on the interior. The Lions have a lot of options, and now Tyleik Williams as well. The Lions have a lot of options along the interior of the offensive line. And Broderick Martin just has not been able to, similar to Sorsdal, although Martin has had some injuries. Broderick just has not been able to play much and get involved. Lions were asked, I think it was Dan Campbell was asked about Martin at the end of the year or at one of the, maybe it was either the draft or the owners' meetings, and they say, hey, we like him. We think he can play. But Mekhi Wingo is another player, 6th-round pick last year, that has lapped Martin. He played a lot a year ago, played more snaps than Martin. I know Martin was hurt to start the year, but then when he got healthy, he was also inactive for a lot of the games and deactivated. So a log jam on the interior. Your 1st-round pick is a defensive tackle. Broderick Martin's roster spot is in some trouble. So I look at him and Sorsdal. It's interesting, and we'll talk about it on our call today. I think Reeder's going to still stay because you want to have a veteran presence there. And I also think Glasgow is going to be here. I don't think the Lions are in such cap hell that they're going to need to make any more big moves in order to free up money. I think they're going to be all right in that department. But Sorsdal and Martin are 2 players that I think could definitely be let go and part of cuts in August, just based upon everything else that's going on. By the way, the NFL announced when training camp and mandatory mini camp dates are, and the Lions' date for mandatory mini camp has not been released yet. And there's a thought out there that Dan Campbell and company are going to just not have a mandatory minicamp. Remember, the Lions are going to be playing 4 preseason games this year because they're in the Hall of Fame game July 31st against the Chargers. So they're going to start up training camp early. They've got OTAs and they've got rookie minicamp coming up May 9th at the end of next week, I believe. So mandatory minicamp might be eliminated here because the Lions are going to be starting up training camp earlier than anybody else. Them and the Chargers due to playing not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 preseason. Come on, it doesn't get much better than 4 exhibition games. So there you have it. All right, one other thing before we get to call of the day. The rivalry between the Bears and Packers has always been there. As you saw during the draft, which was held in Green Bay, Bears were on the clock, Goodell gets up there, and the Packer fans just start booing. They are booing that the Bears are on the clock. They're booing everything. Goodell gets up there for the first pick and says Dan Hampton has passed away. Or no, I'm sorry, not Dan Hampton. Sorry. Steve McMichael, Mongo. Steve McMichael has passed away. Bears legend, number 76, the defensive tackle. And the crowd got silent because Goodell was basically doing a eulogy up there. The minute he said, rest in peace, Steve Mongo McMichael, we loved you. Now let's get back to the pick. And everybody started booing again. And if you recall, Benedict Johnson, Mr. Comedy Hour, the former Lions offensive coordinator, took a little shot at Matt LaFleur at his opening press conference when he said, I've enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. LaFleur has been asked now numerous times, including at the owners' meetings, and now during the draft, he was on a bunch of different podcasts. He was on with Pat McAfee. He was on Pardon My Take. He's been on a lot of shows, and he's been asked about Ben Johnson. And LaFleur keeps saying, yeah, LaFleur had one comment. He said, he's a good offense. He's a good head coach. That's what he said. And then he was asked, I think it was by Taylor Lewan on that Bussin' with the Boys show, do you have beef with Ben Johnson? And LaFleur didn't answer the question. He just went silent and just smiled. So the Ben Johnson, Matt LaFleur beef or rivalry or war of words, because LaFleur admits, I don't really know the guy. He did a great job in Detroit. He's a great play caller, but I don't really know him. And Johnson just loves taking shots and has a little cockiness to him. We've seen it. But this is good for the Lions because I think Green Bay is going to be extra juiced up to play the Bears based off of Ben's comments. And I think the Bears are looking up and going, we've got to gimmick this up. We've got to get our fan base also juiced, jacked, whatever you want to say. And our biggest rival is Green Bay. We've got to beat the Packers. And the Bears last year was at the end of the season, beat the Packers. And I think they got a chip on their shoulder. So if you're the Lions, you got to let these two teams just let them have the war of words. Let them focus on each other and let the Lions stay out of the limelight. out of their crosshairs and let those two kids play in the sandbox while you're at the picnic table having a juicy steak. That's how I view this. I think this little Chicago Green Bay dust up, this LaFleur Ben Johnson, benefits Detroit. Let the Lions just keep their mouths shut and do their thing. Because Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur could end up nose to nose like John Halliburton and Giannis. And I'm here for it. Let them have their time in the sandbox. All right, call of the day coming up next here on Locked On Lions. One of our everydayers checks in. You can check in as well at speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. Hey, we got to tell you about Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where's all my money? Where'd it go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it is easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. All right. Surprising insights. When friends of mine started using Monarch Money, they realized just how much they were spending on things like food delivery. Now they budget smarter and they save more. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with our friends at Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code Locked On NFL for half off your first year. Oh, yeah, it is that time once again. Time to hear from one of our listeners, which we always appreciate. We call this the trusty call of the day. And of course, you can be a call of the day, a caller of the day, and be featured on the show just by going to speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. We have a return call of the day. This is Grant Werner checking in. He's got a question about the Lions, of course, because it is Locked On Lions. Let's roll the tape.
Hey, Derry, it's Grant Warner from mid-Michigan here. Thanks for answering my last question a couple months ago. That was super cool. Before I ask my current one, that Isaac Tesla kid, I played against him in his state title game in 2018. He's an absolute dog. He's different. 22 touchdowns, 2 interceptions against us. I think it's going to take a little bit for him to develop, but Lions fans are going to really like him here in a few years. My question today is, with Tyleik Williams now on the team, who is more likely to not be on the team come opening week? Is it Broderick Martin or is it DJ Reader? Just curious, with Martin not seeing a whole lot of playing time and Reader having the $11 million in cap hit, who would be more likely to not be on the team when the Lions start in September? Thanks for all you do and have a good day. Bye.
Hi, Grant. Thank you very much. Grant Warner calling in from mid-Michigan. Appreciate everybody around the great state of Michigan that checks in with us. And, of course, all of our everydayers that are out there in other states. Very good question. We talked about Broderick Martin before, all right? He's a lot cheaper than DJ Reader. And to kind of correct something Grant said, Reader's cap hit is actually like $12.5 million this year. It's a big chunk of change. And for a guy that, quite honestly, did DJ Reader have a bad year last year? No. I think coming back from the injury and missing training camp last year hurt him. I think he got off to a slow start. I think we expected right away that he would come in and be great. And he was fine. DJ Reader was average last year. I think the Lions feel like, you know what? Contract year, veteran player, McNeil probably out until November. We need DJ Reader to be the DJ Reader from a couple of years ago. The guy that felt he was snubbed from the Pro Bowl when he was with the Bengals a couple of years ago. And when you're going for it, and when you feel like we won 15 games last year and we want to get back to the NFC Championship game, we want to get to the Super Bowl. Are you going to do that with DJ Reader, or are you going to do that with Broderick Martin? Now, again, Tyleik Williams is here. McNeil will get healthy. Onwuzurike is back. Hopefully Mekhi Wingo is healthy. Roy Lopez, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Roy, you love Roy. He's a part of the mix. Pascal can play there. So there's a lot of bodies on the interior of the defensive line. But I think DJ Reader plays a role. Now, if tomorrow they said they were getting rid of him for cap purposes, wouldn't stun me. But I'm also telling you, when you want to be a really good football team, you can't just have a bunch of young guys. You want to, DJ Reader is a chiseled vet that in his 30s, I think he's 31 or 32, can kind of take a guy like Tyleik Williams under his wing and help him, especially during training camp and everything else. Because Lee McNeil's going to be off to the side rehabbing, coming back from the torn ACL. He's not going to be ready to be on the field. So, yes, a guy like Glasgow, it would be a cap saver if you cut him before June or after June 1st. Same with Reader. But I think DJ is going to get another shot to really excel, because the Lions went out a year ago and signed him to that pretty hefty contract. It was 2 years and $26 million or whatever it was, because they think production. They're thinking, and that's a position they really value. Interior O-line, interior D-line. We know this. Brad Holmes values it big time. So, Grant, I think Martin's the one that's in more trouble than Reader right now. But again, we're going to have to wait and see. All right, tomorrow, the great Colton Pouncey from theathletic.com. If you don't listen to their podcast, Colton's and Nick Baumgartner's, please check it out. It's called Welcome to Detroit. They do a good job with it. And those two guys were on it with Tyleik Williams like a month ago, bringing him up as a possible Lions pick. So Colton's going to join us tomorrow on the show. Thanks, everybody, for being here, checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow night, don't forget, after Pistons-Knicks Game 6, our man Jake Riepma is on Locked On Sports Detroit on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts with the postcast. And it'll be on today following Tigers and Astros as well. All right, everybody, appreciate your listenership, your viewership. Find us wherever and tell your friends about us here on Locked On Lions. We'll see you.